So before we get into developing our websites, let's just reiterate why we need to use the mobile-first approach. Let's take a quick look at the scope of mobile coverage. We're going to talk about why mobile design is a priority and explore the components of mobile-specific layouts as well as principles for adding progressive enhancement. Let's discuss a couple of statistics. Here on planet Earth, we have a population of 7 billion people. In 2014, 7 billion were mobile subscribers. This adds up to 95.5% of the total Earth's population is someone that has a mobile subscription. Mobile subscriptions outnumber fixed telephone lines 5 to 1, and mobile broadband subscriptions outnumber fixed broadband by 2 to 1. Of the 7 billion mobile subscribers, 1.75 of those are on smartphones. That translates to be about 1 in 4 people are using a smartphone worldwide. That's an incredible amount of people that are accessing the web via smartphones. With that many people accessing the web, it's easy to understand why a mobile device is increasingly the first connected device that someone would interact with and thus become familiar with. When we think of a mobile ecosystem, everything's changing so rapidly, it's really hard to keep up. There's new terms are emerging all the time. One of them is mobile only, and this describes individuals and even cultures whose access to the internet is entirely through mobile devices. This means that someone might never see your website on a desktop monitor. If this is the case, you better make sure that your mobile experience is good if you want them to stick around or to come back. Too often, design decisions about mobile are based on faulty predictions about user behavior. Really be sure to do your due diligence and research, and don't waste time and effort creating a mobile site for an audience that isn't actually relevant. You can start by making better decisions about your mobile users by looking at the numbers. Here in the United States, people are definitely using mobile devices at the same time. There's some myths that have been going around for quite some time, those being that smartphone users always have slower connections and that smartphone users are always on the go or in a hurry. This actually has proven to not be true. In truth, 77% of the time when someone is using a mobile device, they're actually watching TV. Too. What this translates into is that if they are watching TV or another device, then they're at a place where more than likely they have a Wi-Fi connection, which means that they probably have a pretty fast connection. Let's consider a more traditional way that we have built for the mobile device. In 2010 and 2011, when responsive design first came onto the scene, the typical way that we would create a responsive website might be like this. We would have a large screen, the tablet, and then the smaller screen. And we might think that on the large screen, we would have, let's say, 5 columns. In the medium-sized screen, we might break it down to 3. And then in a mobile or small screen, we might break it down to a single column. This would be using fluid grids, flexible media, and media queries. That's responsive design, right? It's great, right? Well, there's actually some problems with this model. One of the problems is that the mobile design comes at the end of the chain. And what this translates to is the mobile design usually gets the short end of the stick. It's at the end of the process. More than likely, a rush to get everything done at the end. And if something is at the end of the design process, it's more likely to have features removed, or there might be performance penalties that are going to occur because the project is being rushed to being finished in a specific amount of time. So if we flip this model over and we design for mobile first, now we can start by making mobile a priority. Again, we're going to still be using fluid grids, flexible media, and media queries, but now we're doing it differently. The mobile is a priority, not the desktop. This really is going to ensure that mobile is first. This is what mobile first is all about. We want to make sure that we're establishing the core experience on the small screen first, and then adding enhancements and other rich content for users that are on larger screens. If we look at a website in Firefox, I can illustrate a little bit what this means. Here's a website for FoodSense, and FoodSense is a beautiful, responsive website. It has layouts that translate well for a large screen, and my very large screen won't actually fit in my capture right here, but you can see how I have some special links that appear underneath these images. As soon as they start to get a little bit smaller, you don't get quite as much content, so we don't get the kind of sub header there. It just goes to the main list. The names get shorter. Also, on a very large screen, if we scroll down just so you can see the bottom of the page, we have large pictures. We have a 4-column layout. It's actually almost more of a 5-column layout because of this sidebar right here. You can see where the navigation is. As I slowly start to shrink the screen down, you can see that little refinements occur. Pictures get smaller, things get a little bit more concise, and as we continue to reduce the size of the screen, the layout is going to change again. The navigation is going to switch to appearing on top, and if we scroll down, you can see that some content has been eliminated. If we further reduce the size of the screen, we'll eventually go to a 2-column layout, and you can see we've actually lost the icons on the navigation, and finally we get to a 1-column layout, and stuff has just restructured so that it's optimally fit on a small screen. I'm going to go ahead and just demonstrate a kind of handy feature that's located within Firefox if you have the developer tools installed. The developer tools are a free add-on that you can add to Firefox. So if you don't have those, make sure that you get them. I'm going to go up to the Tools menu, which I know that you can't see right now, but if you go to the main menu and hit Tools, and then go to Web Developer and go to Responsive Design View, this actually will display how this web page looks on specific layouts. So you can actually plug in predetermined values, or you can set your own presets in there as well. So if I go from 320 by 480 to 360 by 640, you can see how the layout changes. It hasn't really changed anything here, but it just shows you how this might look on a slightly bigger monitor. If I go to more of a medium-sized screen, you can now see that the layout has changed more substantially. And then finally I can test this out on my large size screens to really display what this website would look like if it was on a full size screen. So this feature within Firefox can be really helpful if you're just trying to get an idea for how your website might look in an alternate device. So to sum up what we're talking about, you really want to think about the mobile landscape. Here's a couple more things for you to think about before we move on. 1.75 billion smartphones, that's 1 in 4 people, are being used worldwide. 57% of users would not recommend companies with poor mobile sites. The average American spends almost 2 hours a day on a mobile device. 1 in 4 searches are conducted on a mobile device. And finally, by 2015, the mobile marketing in US is going to generate $400 billion. All this translates into make mobile design a priority. It's no longer a suggestion. You really need to make it a priority. You need to have a solid foundation for the smallest screen and then add features in for larger screens.